stands for our acts. The sea can be deep for our diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Bam. You might see other chats popping up from a different video. So just as a warning, sometimes Facebook, for some reason, it will that's the right one. Okay. For some reason, it will put the chat from another live here while I'm live. I'm not sure why it does that. I used to know how to build websites back when it was just DOS and HTML, but now I don't know how. World's changed a little too much on me. In this one, we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts. I'm not really anticipating anybody. Everybody has kind of been watching me today. So, Leisure, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah. So I was live earlier, and we decided to go ahead and have, because Grassroots is growing again. We're adding another meeting on Wednesdays at 2:00. I know these times seem to be weird, things like that. Is because we're trying to fill in the gaps where there's no meetings. There's no meetings going on at 2:00 in that area. There's no AA meetings, at least not listed. And so I just put in the Grassroots, hey, we're having a meeting. And there were 5 of us, man. I mean, there was 5 of us. Not only did we go the hour, we went an hour and 15 minutes. Those meetings are turning, they're really good. They're really good. But what that is just proof to me that God is saying, yes, that is when I went, that is when I wanted it. So there's always that. It's always nice to have that proof in the pudding. And I went with that time because, the thing is when it comes to the in-person ones, usually I'm the only one there that helps set up and do it. But there were some other people that could do it at that time. So I decided to go with that because they would be able to make it also. Sometimes, and they were saying, don't base it on just me. And don't worry, I won't. But I am. So too bad. So I'm really proud of the group. Proud of myself, man. It wasn't easy to really put all that together. I just tried starting an in-person meeting for 9 months. It didn't work. And I think it had to do with the location and the fact that it was in a church. If you're going to go to a meeting at a church, just know that they're not going to try and get you to join the church. That's not going to happen. And if they do, then that's bad. They shouldn't be doing that, right? But this is going to be at a resource center where people go to for help. So be a little bit better of a fit. We're going to talk about intrusive thoughts today. Sometimes I will pick a topic. I want you to know that you're not alone in things. I want you to know that you're going to have intrusive thoughts. I've been doing this for quite some time. It still happens to me quite often. In fact, sometimes things go through my head so quick, and it makes this quick judgment. And sometimes it can be pretty freaking nasty in my head. And I kind of have to check myself. Dion, come on, man. That's not how we talk around here. We don't talk like that anymore. Squirrely thoughts abound, huh? Okay. We can do a squirrel thoughts too. Welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Okay. Before we get started, and I'll probably bring it up again, you do not need to beat up on yourself about intrusive thoughts. You can certainly confront yourself and say, Dion, no. That's not, we're not going that route. Sorry, buddy. Right? Because our brains have been trained so much. Okay. And part of this stuff we're kind of born with. But I mean, I was in survival mode for so long that I used to have to make those decisions pretty darn quick. I used to have to make those judgments pretty darn quick because I usually put myself in sorted places, right? So intrusive thoughts are unwanted, involuntary. Okay. That's why I don't want you to think too bad of yourself. No point in doing that. Or what will happen is you will stay in that intrusive thought. Okay. What we need is a positive statement going through it. Okay. And what do we say? Well, actions are louder than words, right? So therefore, it's your action that's really going to count. Right? They say that 80% of the program is keeping your darn mouth shut. Yeah. Leisure says, isn't it crazy how many times through the day that we reset and restart? The thoughts always creep in. Yeah. And this isn't, I want you to know that it does happen to me less, but it has not stopped. It still happens to me. Okay. So it's something that I'm probably going to have to, I don't have to deal with it. I work through it. I like what Leisure was just saying. So involuntary and distressing thoughts, images, or urges that could be strange, disturbing, or violent. They can be scary, offensive, or shameful, and may go against a person's values or beliefs. Intrusive thoughts can be a common experience, even for people without mental health conditions. Well, we have a mental health condition, don't we? And it comes with judging people. Even in our families growing up, if you grew up in a dysfunctional family, being a kid, when people are picking on other kids so that they feel better about themselves. Right? Intrusive thoughts can be a common experience. They can range from slightly uneasy to completely disturbing and can be triggered by an internal or external stimuli. So maybe you saw somebody and they reminded you of somebody else that was very mean to you. That could lead to an intrusive thought. Maybe somebody looks different. Maybe you don't like the color of their hair. The hard one that I have with are people that have tattoos all over their face. I don't know why. I feel the urge to put it. It's just kind of hard for me to look at, I guess. But is that their problem? No, it's not. It's not their problem. And I've got to get to a point where I'm willing to listen to this person. Okay. So, what's an example of an intrusive thoughts? Worrying you're going to harm someone because you'll lose control. For example, that you'll push someone in front of a train or stab them. I know. It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear. I don't know how much more I can say aside from the fact that they don't really end and don't beat up on yourself, But here it says, how do you stop intrusive thoughts? I think that's a pretty big statement to say that you can get them to stop, right? Leisure said intrusive thoughts can even exist in us from our past lives. I tend to agree with that. I don't think this is the first time I've been here. I mean, I was born 4 hours after Jimi Hendrix died, but I'm not Jimi Hendrix. I'm not Jimi Hendrix reborn. Not even close. Well, maybe Jimmy decided he wanted to come back and help people instead of destroy his life with drugs. But then I'm an alcoholic. So yeah, who knows? To manage intrusive thoughts. Now it says to manage intrusive thoughts, it did not say to stop them. So we manage them. We alcoholics have to do this. Okay. Delayed gratification comes into this. A lot of things come into this. Patience, tolerance, kindliness, love. You know, we had a set of morals that we grew up with, and we didn't quite know how to do it. So to think that we're going to never have an intrusive thought, well, yeah. My brain's just too judgmental. But what does that mean? It means that I should not go to my brain for answers. So I got an intrusive thought in my head. Maybe I should go to my heart and ask the same question, see what it has to say. Because that's where my higher power resides. That's where God resides, is in my heart. Okay, maybe not literally in my heart, but in my soul, my morals, I know better, right? When I'm mean to somebody else, even in my head, I still get a little weird feeling in my stomach. That does happen. Hey, Clara. It's the Dion and Clara show today. I've been seeing you all day. It makes me feel really good that, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I get to see my friends throughout the day, all day, every day. I think that's pretty cool. Right? Try practicing mindfulness and self-compassion. Acknowledge them as passing thoughts without judgment, and engaging in activities that shift your focus to the present moment or something enjoyable. I think they're right on cue here. Because I think the worst thing that we can actually do is feel guilty for thinking that thought. Now, in this case, it is not the thought that counts. It's what we're going to do with the thought. Just like a lot of other things that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. All right. It gives some suggestions here. Acknowledge it and accept. Don't suppress. This is not something that we give to God. It's not something that we let go of. We're going to work through it. Let it stay. But ask yourself, do I really feel that way? Is that how I really feel about that person, place, thing, or situation? And you're going to find usually the answer is no. But if it is, then we need to ask some other questions. Well, did that person actually do something to me? Right? An intrusive thought can change your whole action because it's something that's reactive. And I found that I can't be reactive to life. I have to act appropriate with life, right? So recognize them as thoughts. Understand that intrusive thoughts are just thoughts, not necessarily a reflection of your reality or your character. Don't fight them. Trying to suppress or avoid intrusive thoughts can actually make them stronger. Yes, because you're adding. You might add, well, okay, well, I had that thought. No, it's okay to confront yourself. There's nothing wrong with confrontation. I'm not saying it's easy, but confrontation, like I just said, do I actually feel that way? Is that my actual thought about that person? I mean, like all they did was walk through the door, and I'm over here and all these, it usually for me tends to be name calling. And what is this? Well, it's a defensive thing in my brain that I must always be on top of these things because people made fun of me a lot. They did these other things. So I tried to become really quick-witted. And being quick-witted doesn't really fly in our world anymore. Leisure says, overthinking creates problems that aren't even there. Yes, I will then create another problem in my head. Yes, I will. One thing, only one thing leads to another. Songs are full of fucking great advice. Amber says, well, I guess with you being popular, I can expect you to still be live in 15 minutes late. If I'm 15 minutes late, thanks, Amber. Just as guilt, Heather says, just as guilt and shame will keep it alive and well. Yes, the guilt is another negative emotion that will add on to that. And maybe you're not even thinking about the intrusive thought, but it can lead you down what we call a rabbit hole. It can lead to other things like self-pity. Oh man, I shouldn't have thought that. I'm such an idiot. God, you're so stupid, so stupid. And then we start calling ourselves names. That we can't do that. That is going to add to the problem. And then what will happen is what Leisure will say. We will create a manufacture. I will manufacture a problem so I can stay in that mode of beating up on myself. Beating up on myself has never solved any problem. Practice self-compassion, not compassion of other people, but of self. In other words, don't call yourselves names for thinking it. Remind yourself that everyone experiences intrusive thoughts and it's okay to have them. See? But we don't bring it up often because nobody wants to admit that they have intrusive thoughts. And that's why I start these conversations so that you know it's okay to talk about these things. Okay? We're not bringing up the actual intrusive thoughts here, right? Right. Leisure says, I would say fear is the most powerful of all emotions that induce these thoughts. Absolutely, they are. In fact, I would say pretty much every single one of them. Yeah. Fear that I may not get what I want. Maybe a better looking person walks into the room. Maybe the person that spoke before you was more charismatic. Doesn't always have to be bad things. Jealous and envy can lead to these things also. I know they do for me. There's some things that I do that I really don't want other people to do better than me. I don't. But I can learn from that. I can teach myself something from that, right? So shift your focus, engage in activities. Maybe you're in a meeting. Somebody says something, you get an intrusive thought. Now we're going to go back to that like love thing that I talked about a few weeks ago. All right. From there, what I try and do is I listen and I look for everything that I can agree with what they're saying. Even if it's small, because I'm changing my mindset about that person, or that intrusive thought's going to kind of keep going forward. So I'll try and find something about that person, place, thing, or situation that I can agree with, that I can love about it. I figured Leisure was going to say something. Leisure says, I've never experienced a better looking person walk into any room I'm in. I'd also have to say, you and I have never been in the same room. There's that quick wit. I figured somebody was going to probably say that, though. How'd I know? Because it went through my mind, too. But I wasn't in the right situation to make that joke yet. So practice mindfulness. Focus on the present moment through techniques, deep breathing, meditation, or simply observing your surroundings. That's what I was kind of talking about there. Yeah. Try for a different mindset. Look for something else. Okay. What we can't do is have a negative thought after the negative thought. We can't have a negative thought after the intrusive thought. And the key thing there is, again, is not to beat up on yourself. Okay. Distraction. When intrusive thoughts arise, try to switch your focus to something else, whether it's a task, conversation, or a hobby. You just said that. All right. Change and reframe. Challenge and reframe. I was just talking about this a little bit. Ask yourself questions. Question the thought. Ask yourself if the intrusive thought is realistic or helpful. That's a great one, too, right there. Helpful. Is this thought helpful? No, it's not. All right. Bye-bye. There you go. Real quick. But everything that the shame, the blame, and the guilt are things of yesteryear. They do not belong with us anymore. Okay. Guilt maybe a little bit, but not to the point where it forces people to do things. All right. But we're not allowed to do blame and shame anymore. And that's got to start with you. You get one more sale, you can go home, Amber. I'm proud of you. She hopped back on the phone and made some closes. I noticed you're the kind of closer that when you're under pressure, that's when you seem to close. When you're under a little bit of pressure, that's when you really seem to close. All right. Label the thought. Identify the thought as an intrusive thought, which can help you create distance from it. Okay. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying, but it's you know what? That's an intrusive thought. It doesn't belong there. Well, you can do that too. There's a couple of different ways. Now, what we're not going to do, you left with 6. Good fucking job. You started with what, 1 or 2? So yeah, there you go. That's why you're the boss. It's weird because when I was cold calling myself, it was a lot harder. But when you're the boss and you're training somebody, I always closed. I don't know what it was. Anyway. Visualize thoughts as passing clouds. Imagine thoughts as clouds passing by in the sky rather than something that needs to be addressed. That we don't even really have to address it. Right? Leisure says we are not free of them, but at least now, thanks to the steps and the fellowship, I have a reprieve, something that I can practice throughout the day, even if it's minute by minute or second by second. Amber says I would have closed more deals, but my coworker wanted to talk to me and messed with my juju. Oh, you guys are going to love some of this stuff. Seek support. Talk to someone you trust. Share your experience with a friend, family member, or therapist. Yeah. Hey, I've been having these thoughts. I've been, what are we saying? Tell on yourself. Tell on yourself. I love the third one here. You guys are going to like it. Consider professional help. They just kind of said that. If intrusive thoughts are significantly impacting your life, seek professional help from a therapist or counselor. I would agree with this, especially if those thoughts have a lot of harm in them. I didn't necessarily have violent intrusive. Well, I do sometimes, but I had these PTSD nightmares, right? And they were violent, very bloody, very violent. And that is a sort of intrusive thing also. Those are kind of intrusive thoughts. I used to wake up fighting because I thought the fight was still going on. If some of you have been listening to me for a while, it's only been about 6 months since those nightmares went away. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what happened in my life, but something did. But I had to go to a lot of therapy for it. I had to do a lot of talking about it to why I was having those nightmares. What was going on? Was I thinking of certain things before bed? Right? EMDR really helped me out with that. The third suggestion on seeking support is try cognitive behavioral therapy. See, I knew you'd like that one because Alcoholics Anonymous is CBT. It is cognitive behavioral therapy. It is a reframing of the mind. We're going to go a little bit longer. We're going to talk about CBT next. CBT is a form of therapy that can help you identify and change negative thought patterns. What is CBT? CBT is a type of psychotherapy that aims to help individuals identify and change negative thought patterns and behaviors that contribute to mental health problems. It's a rewiring of the brain. It's changing how we think. The first thing that we actually do in AA where that goes to CBT is identifying, right? That we identify the thought or pattern, because it isn't the alcohol that's the problem, it's our brain. And we need to reframe it. So when in your brain, I don't know what it happens when you do new stuff, is you create a new line, literally a new line of thought process, right? And in repetition is the key. Okay. But the number one thing that seems to help people out is accountability. When we are accountable, we actually have a much better chance of staying sober. So cognitive distortion, CBT focuses on identifying and challenging unhelpful thoughts and beliefs such as catastrophizing, all or nothing thinking, or overgeneralization. I'd say that describes an alcoholic. Behavioral activation. CBD encourages individuals to engage in activities that improve their mood and well-being even when they are unmotivated, like going to an AA meeting, helping another alcoholic, going out of your way to do something for somebody else. Neural pathway. Thank you, Clara Joyce. It was in my brain before I started talking about it and I forgot it. But yes, I was talking about neural pathways, and your brain can create new ones. Okay. But some of those neural pathways don't go away. And that's where those intrusive thoughts lie. See, it went down the wrong path. So we got back up. Beep, 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 beep. All right, now we're going to go down this neural pathway instead. Thank you very much, Claire. That helped me a lot. CBT teaches individuals practical strategies for solving problems and coping with difficult situations. It's just a replacement. It's a thought replacement. Okay. And so far, they're pretty much describing the steps, aren't they? Because we do a lot of identifying. Because when we get here, we don't really have our identity is alcoholism. Our identity is alcoholic. And you're not an alcoholic. You're you. Alcoholism is a mental illness, right? So we need a new identity too. Well, before we can get a new identity, we're going to have to identify what is in us, okay? Because alcohol has brought out the worst of our traits. And that doesn't mean we're bad people. No, we're not bad people trying to be good. We're sick people trying to be well. Absolutely. Problem solving. Yeah. Problem solving. Half our steps are about problem solving. CBT teaches individuals practical strategies for solving problems and coping with difficult situations. I think I already said that. Exposure. CBT may involve gradually exposing individuals to feared situation to help them overcome anxieties and phobias. Amber and I were just talking about this before the meeting started. Because she had a doctor's appointment and I had a doctor's appointment earlier in the week, and she didn't really want to go to her doctor's appointment. It's hard for me, and I don't care what the doctor appointment is, it's hard for me to do. And she said, Dion, you had the courage, so I figured I could have the courage. See? She created a new neural pathway by identifying and then seeing the evidence in other people, right? And that's exposure. And what happens when we go through these things, what we do is we get better at it. Yeah. You did CPT? Nice. All right. How it works. CBT involves a series of sessions with a trained therapist. Let's just do the conclusion and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. And keep it simple. That's keep it simple. And these little slogans and everything that we have, that is exactly what this is for. To remind us of that neural pathway that we had. Okay. Actually, I'm done reading this because what my brain's only function is to figure out the easiest, softest way to get from point A to point B. It's often that I kind of have to go out of my way to pick that more arduous road, right? Oh, maybe I should just, I got notorious at rescheduling. And I'm like, I can't keep rescheduling. I've got to do this at some point. So I asked God for the courage, and He gave me the courage because then what happens is I see other people going through it and they have the courage, and therefore I can do it too. Yeah. So, all right. I think that's a good wrap on what we can do with intrusive thoughts. Just to kind of recap on it. If you do have an intrusive thought, actually, let's rephrase that. When, not if, we're alcoholics, man. It's a matter of when. Happens to me all day, every day. Right. So, first of all, we're talking about it so that you're not alone in this. And now that you know you're not alone in this, then you don't have any need to beat up on yourself. Just because you had that thought does not mean you are that person. You are not that person. Okay. Maybe you were at one point, but you're not that person anymore. So there's no reason to beat the crap out of yourself because you had an intrusive thought. Remember what it said at the very beginning of that when we talked about it, that intrusive thoughts they're pretty much out of your control. How are you going to tell your brain not to say something before it even thinks it? All you can really do is practice, and it'll become less and less, but it never really seems to go away. So what do? We maintain it. We don't fight it. Can't fight it. It's something that you confront. Okay. Confrontation does not include name calling. No, that'd be passive aggressive. That'd be name calling. So if, let's say you have an intrusive thought and you're stupid, 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 then you have two things to do. Right? Then you have two things to do. Number one is that intrusive thought, and then you owe yourself an apology. If you call yourself a name, say it out loud. Say it out loud. Dion, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you that. I'm going to work on that. And give yourself an amends. I'm going to tell you what that does. Okay? That's that self-compassion that they were talking about. Because if I can't make an amends to myself for something that's an intrusive thought that was out of my control, I can't really pass that on to somebody else. There you go, Heather. That's a great way to say it. And I think we'll wrap with that. Encouragement is imparting courage to other persons. And you're right, because courage is in it. Good call, Heather. Good job. All right. I think that's going to be a wrap on this one. I hope you all have a good day. Thanks for being here. I always appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out and have a day.